I am here today to talk about 10 JRPGs that surpassed my expectations again. I'll explain how they turned out to be much better than I expected. And get ready, cause there's a lot of masterpieces today. So let's begin. Number 10, Tales of Berseria. I'm opening the list with this masterpiece, arguably the best Tales game in the series. Don't you think it's stupid that I didn't include it in any of the previous episodes? Perhaps I didn't because most of you already know I'm a die-hard fan of it. You must be thinking that it surpassed my expectations because of Velvet, her edgy personality, her compelling revenge, and her sexy looks. Or perhaps because the rest of the cast are a bunch of anti-heroes, or cynics or sarcastic characters with very black humor. If so, then you are correct. But I also wasn't expecting the big criticism against organized establishment and political agendas brainwashing society. And this is a game from 2016, man. It predicted our reality so good that playing it nowadays will probably strongly connect with you, or at least feel very, very familiar. Everything is offensive in the world of Tales of Berseria, and the characters are here to rebel and offend even more. I love it. But another thing that surpassed my expectations was the combat. I love playing with Velvet because she's so broken, but most of the other characters were quite fun to control as well, especially on normal mode, since it can get a bit spiky sometimes and Velvet alone won't be enough to save you. I really craved using 4 different combos for each button, greatly increasing the variety of moves over the classic Tales combat, which is repetitive. I was never a master of any, but changing them every now and then and trying new combinations with the new ones was always a blast. I think it's one of the best battle systems across the series. This is an excellent game. Number 9 is Memories of Celceta. I honestly thought this would be just an average, middle-of-the-road Ys game. After all, it's a remake of 2 versions of the original Ys 4, one of which came out on the Super Famicom in '93. I played it on the Vita first for a little bit and wasn't impressed, so I abandoned it for years. It just didn't hook me like 7 had done on the PSP years before. So by the time I gave it a second chance, I was a big fan already of 8, which I've praised many times here in the past. So can you imagine my expectations? I mean, after playing Lacrimosa of Dana? Well, I couldn't resist now that I was a big fan of the series, so I played it and beat it. The results weren't as flamboyant as with 8, but man, I scolded myself for not having stuck to it before. It is a great remake and one of the best I've ever played. Almost a masterpiece, dare I say. My only complaint was that the areas and dungeons were a bit too long for their own good, but in everything else, the game was awesome! Story was intriguing, especially with Adol now losing his memories. The plot twists halfway through and near the end I sure wasn't ready for. The combat was incredibly fast and responsive, just the way I would expect for an Ys game. Hell, I think it has one of my favorite combat controls in the series. And the music, well, let's just say, apart from the obvious, that the first town has what I consider nowadays as my favorite JRPG town theme of all time. Yeah, I like it more than the town themes in Legends such as Chrono Trigger or Cross. So the soundtrack also surpassed my expectations. Number 8, Izuna the Unemployed Ninja. For the longest time I thought I would never in my life finish a roguelike RPG, one of those with randomly generated dungeons and turn-based combat. Maybe I should say a mystery dungeon RPG. One where if you move, the enemy moves when you're exploring around. But then I gave Izuna here a chance after so many years of having abandoned it. And the results, well, surpassed my expectations. It was quite the addicting journey, unstoppable until I saw the end of one of the biggest grind fests in history. Still though, it's a short game beatable in less than 20 hours. And of course, the post-game kicked the crap out of me. But at least I beat the main story. I think Izuna herself is one of the reasons I pulled through it. She's such a funny and lovable character that you just naturally have fun exploring the dungeons with her. The story is a good comedy too, with great dialogue and likable characters. The music is very folkloric, but it sounds so catchy that it makes the gameplay more inviting. And finally, the pixel art. If you're a fan of this art style, then I'm sure you've noticed how good it looks all around. This is a pretty good game, not for everybody, but one that I sure wasn't expecting to enjoy and finish. There's a direct sequel to it also on the DS, which I haven't finished yet. Maybe I will someday and have the same experience, but the first one is definitely a good time. This doesn't mean I'm a big fan of the genre now, it just means I might get into more games of this kind in the near future. Number 7, Oninaki. I first met this game thanks to a demo, one that didn't quite convince me. I thought I'd be playing anime Diablo with some small dark fantasy elements and that's it. So my expectations were relatively low when the final release got in my hands. So I started from the beginning, ignoring the demo progress, and little by little I kept bumping into one surprise after the other. Most of them weren't gameplay related, mind you, but rather story-wise. I had played the other 2 JRPGs by Tokyo RPG Factory, I Am Setsuna and Lost Sphere. Very traditional style JRPGs, love letters to the classics. But Oninaki was way different. The more I played it, the more it felt like its own thing. It gathered influences from many different JRPGs, so it's hard to narrow it down into simply another love letter or whatever. It's an action RPG where you control one guy the entire game, accompanied by one of different summons you can find out there to recruit, each with its own leveling system, advantages and disadvantages, and a small story arc. But it was really the plot that gave me enough reasons to finally include this game in these videos. Sure, it wasn't a masterpiece or anything, but mature, dark, tragic, spiritual, and a bit bold, to say the least. Well, I certainly wasn't expecting that. It can also be somewhat addicting to play, because it's another one of those games where you have to get good than just grinding your way through it. So yeah, in the end, Oninaki here surpassed my expectations without even me noticing. Number 6, Tales of Destiny. I'm glad some of you kept insisting for a couple of years for me to try this remake. As you already know, I'm not the biggest fan of the original PS1 release, so I never had any hopes at all with a remake. A remake that happened way too soon in my opinion, merely 5 or 6 years after the original. But I'm happy they did it because it blew my brains out! It's the same story, but expanded with brand new graphics done in a completely different engine. Improved battle mechanics, improved interface, and improved navigation, especially that since the encounter rate was crazy annoying in the original. This is how you remake a video game. Developers should go back to releases like this one and learn how to properly do one again. Just keep in mind that this version is the director's cut, where you have a Leon story mode, where you can play for most of the game through his point of view. Another thing to consider is that it never left Japan because the Tales games weren't popular back then as they are now, but a fan translation was completed a couple of years ago. I did a full comparative review of this versus its PS1 original if you want to know all the details, but overall, much better than it, and it's clearly shown in the review. Number 5, Endless Frontier 1 and 2. I don't know why I never included at least the first game in any of the previous episodes. It's a duology of spin-offs of the Super Robot Tyson universe, but completely standalone. I mean, Exceed here is a direct sequel to the first one, but you don't need to play other games in the series to understand them. The first one is actually one of my 5 favorite JRPGs on the DS and has been for almost 2 decades. I found the game brimming with personality, excellent music, unique battle system, everything just screamed cool, man! And well, it was my introduction to the ginormous Super Robot Wars universe. For some reason I never bothered with the sequel until this year. I thought it was going to be more of the same, but with an even sillier plot. Well, it's not like I was mistaken, but I didn't know I was gonna love it so much. In fact, I think the gameplay is even better than its predecessor. I don't think we got it because the first one was published by Atlus, and they were known back then for very limited print runs and mediocre publicity. Plus, both of them could be considered as very offensive nowadays because of the amount of fan service and sex jokes they have. You know what that means, right? That now you have another big reason to play them. Unless you're a snowflake, that is. This duology is awesome, strongly recommended, and it surpassed my expectations twice. Number 4. Berwick Saga. Obviously, most of you remember my review of this game from a few months ago, but I haven't talked about it ever since. All I did was praise it, but also complain about it. But today, I wanted to remind you how much I loved it despite its brutality. It's just, I wasn't expecting this game to be far better and also far different from its predecessor, Berwick Saga. That's a game I beat about 10 years ago, and it's literally a Fire Emblem clone, well developed by the creator of Fire Emblem, duh, but Berwick Saga was really its own thing. A massive game, long, with a huge town to interact with, several stores, synthesis, side quests, side stories, very mature storytelling, etc. It just felt like a much more ambitious project than before. Sure, several gameplay mechanics are similar to Fire Emblem, but the execution is very different. For example, the mercenary system, where you pay characters to join you for only one chapter, but each has their own story arc you need to complete to fully recruit them. Or what about the map system? It isn't grid-based, instead you move on hexagons now and can attack from multiple directions other than just 4. And as I mentioned, there's just so much to do in town, including stuff like an alchemy system, or bank loans, or a weapons collector. It's great. I'm still anal about this game being a Japanese exclusive considering how huge it was, but we aren't strangers to JRPG masterpieces being left there for no justifiable reason. At least it's been fully fan translated for a while. Number 3. Shin Megami Tensei V. It never occurred to me to include this game or some of the others in this video in previous episodes, or maybe it did, but it wasn't the right time. I don't want to talk about the disastrous story on how I got my hands on this game, but I think you already know it surpassed my expectations. It was well worth the hype. Well, maybe not in terms of story, but in everything else it sure was. The story wasn't bad or anything, it just felt a bit lackluster compared to the previous entries, but it's still decent. Besides, if you play it with the Japanese audio instead, it'll feel better, trust me. Do yourself a favor and forget about its lame-ass English dub with its delicate cast of actors if you haven't played it. There's also a royal edition of this game, which was now released on other platforms. It's called Vengeance, but I haven't played it. You can't go wrong with the original though. So how did it surpass my expectations? First of all, it's extremely hard, even on easy mode. So in terms of difficulty, it didn't disappoint. I was expecting it to be toned down for modern audiences, but nope, it still kicked everyone's ass! Second, if you play this game and compare it to the SMT4 3DS duology, several things have been vastly improved. The exploration, for example, is far superior here, not only because enemies are visible and easy to avoid, but also because you got much bigger areas and dungeons, and also because that in itself encourages you to explore every inch. I also think the graphics, despite the original Switch version having low frame rate and resolution, because Nintendo, still managed to look beautiful and very, very appealing. And lastly, Ryota Kosuka came back with a blast. The music is perhaps the only thing in the game haters wouldn't even dare to criticize. It's excellent. After 4 years of its original release, Shin Megami Tensei V is still a masterpiece and an absolute must-play. Number 2. Suikoden V. I'm surprised some of you watching this video didn't know this is my favorite Suikoden game of all time. Yeah, I like it more than the legendary Suikoden 2. Why? Many years ago, I looked everywhere for it for several years. I really wanted to play it, but couldn't find it anywhere. Miraculously, one day I found it in a flea market, but it was bootleg. Well, when I took it home, it wouldn't work properly because it was PAL, so I had to fix some things to make it work, and it finally did. So I was hyped and excited to play it, but also frustrated and afraid, mostly because the reviews were scarce since barely anyone had played it. Also, my expectations decreased after the first several hours, since it's a game that hooks you right from the start, sure, only to let you go boringly down when you get to the capital. Yeah, from there it just feels like a drag, slowly disappointing you. Well, I'm glad I never ditched it, because once certain events happen, it starts hooking you back up, it starts shining, it recaptures your attention with intriguing moments and dark plot twists, and then it starts showing you its real classic Suikoden gameplay mechanics. This game is huge, and it's one of the longest in the series thanks to how much happens and how many things you can do. Besides, its strategy battles feel way more fleshed out and polished than any of the previous titles, with more significant engagement. I thought the music would disappoint because it was done by a bunch of new guys, but holy shit, man, I got a soundtrack on par with the first two entries. The composers have my utmost respect for nailing it. The game's excellent. It's just a slow burn, but that's all. It will hook you back at some point and it won't let you go again. This masterpiece should have been in the first episode, cause yeah, it's that freaking good. Number 1. If you watched my most recent review, then you already know how big of a deal this game was to me. One that I just played casually simply out of curiosity to see what it was like. I didn't expect it to reawaken my gaming masochist side after Berwick Saga had put it to sleep again, but since every little aspect of this game was so carefully crafted with pure genius, I couldn't bring myself to abandon it. I tried letting go of it again and again, only to come back incessantly until I beat it. It's such an overly beautiful game in all sense of the word, not just in graphics or music, but also in story. You want to do everything in your power to see that little girl succeed. Who knew I would get so obsessed with this game? I know it's soon because I just reviewed it, but it needed to be here no matter what. Games like these usually don't surpass my expectations. Instead, they just bore me or drive me crazy. So I'm still shocked I pulled through in spite of its infamy. It's a masterpiece. Here, watch the review to fully comprehend what it's about and what it did to me. Trust me, it's very well worth your time.